Hi guys, well today I'm going to be reviewing the latest film to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is based on the, fairly highly acclaimed comic book series from what I've heard, and it's a definite change for Marvel because, it's not got the well-known characters like Captain America and Iron Man that Marvel have done before. So, it was definitely a brave move for Marvel, and, me personally, I'm not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Most of them are either pretty dull and boring or good and very overrated. And this film could either be the best film they've released or just another mediocre superhero film. And while I don't think it's a brilliant film, I think it's a very, very good one and by far their best film. As I said, it's the best film that they've done for me and obviously the best film of the year. I'm only basing that on the ones I've seen, obviously, but from what I've seen, I definitely think it's the best they've done. And I think it works so well because it's proportionally perfect. That it's got the right amount of laughter. While I'm on the humour subject, this film is absolutely hilarious. I was really, really stunned to find how funny this film is. There's some genuinely hilarious scenes, and all sort of as I said, with the proportionally perfect. It really it goes well with the amount of action, and some even makes for some fairly emotional scenes as well. But it all just works, and it's a very well balanced film, which is why I think it works so well. I really, really like the approach that Marvel took with this film, and as I said, the comedy worked incredibly well in the context of the film, and as I said, made for some utterly hilarious moments, just genuinely brilliant. The film is often, being compared to Star Wars, and while I'm no Star Wars fan, I definitely see the comparison. At the time it's glaringly obvious, but I'm not going to say which one I think is better because I know a lot of people won't like the answer, so I'm just going to leave it there. But the film's just got an incredible cast as well. I really, really like the characters, and Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Batista, the wrestler turned actor, Vin Diesel as the voice of Groot, and Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket. And they all did such a brilliant job with their characters, and they're very, very well written characters, and they did a fantastic job, as well as the extremely dynamic supporting cast as well. And the cast is definitely, and the characters is definitely the standout feature of the film. They're just brilliant, and presented great chemistry along with just terrific moments, and they really, really did brilliant in the film. The film's not flawless. It's not without its flaws, no way. But its flaws don't really distract from the film. It's not trying to be anything incredible. I know a lot of people are saying it is incredible, but I don't think it is. The running time is a problem. Easily, 5 to 10 minutes of the film could have been chopped off. That's normally down to a lot of scenes, sort of going extremely, carrying on, or they just seem to drag, or they just feel unnecessary. But it's not a huge problem. I was never bored as such, but I did feel at times that it should be sort of wrapping up soon. But then the next scene and then the next scene would happen, sort of similar sort of thing to what happened in Django Unchained. You keep thinking it's going to finish and it doesn't. But it's not a big problem. But the next flaw is extremely big problem, and it's a problem a lot of other people have mentioned as well, and it's the villain. The film is an extremely poor villain, and it's a real shame as well. But because villains a fairly important thing for me. I always really love watching a villain, especially really well written and portrayed one, and it's neither. It's appalling actually. It's a lot of the lines feel cheesy, and that come out of the villain, and very cringy at times. And I don't know whether that was the film's sort of trying to do that, because it's a very sort of tongue-in-cheek film, but it didn't work for me. And it's the same with Loki. Loki's not in the film, and I don't like Loki. I'll just say that now. And a lot of people think he's on par with Heath Ledger's Joker. Not even close. I think Loki's a crap villain, honestly. But Loki's not in this film, but the villains in this film are shocking, and their scenes are pretty awful, unless it's a funny scene with the Guardians. But at the end there's a hilarious scene, in fact. But generally the villain scenes aren't great. Fortunately there aren't a lot of them, but when they come, they're not very good. But all in all, the film makes for a fun time at the cinema. There's plenty CGI special effects to be admired and captivated by, and it makes a strong case in being, you know, in its sort of own realm, separate from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of heroes and heroines, and it makes for a very promising film to close out the summer, and it's a very good film. It's not without its flaws, but for a summer blockbuster, I thought it was pretty great, and I really, really enjoyed it. So definitely recommend you watch it, and yeah, I thought it was great.
What a bunch of a-holes.